Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sports Lowdown. Brad Swanson and Knapp here bringing you the Sports Lowdown as we do on Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Channel 98.9 FM. Lee, welcome back. I know you were been a busy man, and actually you've been a very busy man. Last week you were unable to make the show, but this week you're back and ready to roll, and you have some information on swimming for us that you're going to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I went down and talked to Coach Doug Gerald on Monday night and got some information. The high school swim team had districts at Spire Center over the past weekend, and I got some information as far as who's going to states and how the team made out overall and stuff like that. So to start off with, we had 14 girls and boys make the district swim meet, which is a pretty good chunk of the team. They had 6 girls and 8 boys make it. And then we had 2 girls go for diving. And in diving, the top 3 were automatic going to states. And Katie Anderson ended up 4th.
Oh, geez.
And she got 4th by 18 points. So if she'd have hit one more dive just a little bit better, or somebody would have hit one dive just a little bit worse in 3rd place, she would have went to the state meet. And then Braden Gwynn, this is her first year of diving, and she ended up 11th. And that's pretty good accomplishment for being her first year swimming.
Right.
And the 4 girls, they went in a relay, and they didn't fare so well. Once you get over to the district meet, the competition is pretty good. But the boys, their medley relay ended up 13th, and then for the swimming events, Brad, the top one first place swimmer is the only one that moves automatically to the state meet, and the other 24 swimmers are by times. They have 4 heats in each event at the state meet, and it's kind of hard because the east side is a little bit slower than the west side of Pennsylvania for some reason. Like we've talked about before, literally it's something in the water, because you get the swimmers on the east side over around Philadelphia area, they're always faster. I'm not sure why. But like I said, the medley relay ended up 13th. Ben Good had probably his best meet that he's had this year. In the 50 freestyle, he ended up 3rd. So he did not go automatically, but he did go on time. And when I talked to Coach Gerald, he's seated right now at 17th at states. And in the 100 fly, he ended up 4th. There again, he did not make it automatically, but he's seated 24th at the state meet. And then they had the 200 freestyle relay. They ended up 3rd on that. And they are going on a time. That'd be Nate Lesher, John Elbers, Laban Earhart, and Ben Good. And they're seated 21st at the state meet. So to be seated, that's a pretty good accomplishment, considering you're going to have 32 teams, 32 entries. Overall, Corry ended up 8th place at the district meet out of 16 teams in AA. So that's a pretty good accomplishment. Their last relay had a little bit of trouble. There was a false start, so they got disqualified. If they'd have finished that race there, they could have ended up in 5th. That's how close it was between 8th and 5th. So congratulations to all them boys, and good luck to them boys at the state meet in 2 weeks down at Bucknell University.
Yeah, Yeah, good luck to all those kids, and that is a great accomplishment for those boys. You know, that's a hard-working group of kids right there. They've been dedicated to the sport for a long time now, and and now it's paying off.
Yes, it is.
That's pretty sweet for them. Great to see Ben Good doing so well.
Yeah.
I was going to say doing so good, but I will say doing so well. His senior year, he's a very dedicated kid, works hard, listens to his coaches. I remember him in football when he was younger, and just one of those kids that you really enjoyed having him on your team because you knew that he was going to do whatever you asked him to do.
Right. Well, he's really into swimming because after graduation, I believe he's going to the Navy, and he's going to stick around water and stay in shape. So that's good to see that.
Right. Nice.
One thing I'd like to mention also, Brad, this weekend, Friday and Saturday, the YMCA kids, the YMCA Otters, they have 19 kids going to the Spire Center for the Northwestern Pennsylvania District Swim Meet. So, and the top 6 in each event move on at Y districts. I think there's there might be four different districts in Pennsylvania, and so the whole east side will be at Spire Center this coming weekend, and then, like I say, the 19 kids, and I will have an update on them for the next show next weekend, and let you know how those 19 kids made out.
Nice. So where will they swim states, the Otters?
The Otters will swim states at Penn State University.
Nice. Good deal.
So.
Well, looks like things are going really well in the pool, and it's great to hear that. And it's nice of Coach Gerald to take time out and chat with you about this stuff. And I know that he's very excited. You and I talked prior to starting the show tonight, and he's a very good coach. He's a young guy that puts a lot of time and effort into the sport, and I think he's doing a really nice job.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's already looking forward to next year, like we've talked in the show before, Brad, that they have 9 8th grade girls coming up next year to the varsity team, and those 9 girls are part of the 19 that'll be swimming this weekend. And I talked to Coach Gerald, and he seems to think that there's going to be quite a few of them that will qualify for the state meet.
Nice. Excellent. Well, I'm almost looking forward to next week's show already. I hate to make time go by too fast, but and speaking of time going by fastly, here we are. I mean, we're talking states already.
Right.
Yep. That's crazy. The month of March is here already. We're getting down to the state swim meet finals. We're getting down to the state finals coming up here soon for basketball, girls and boys, which our kids are done now. They've concluded their seasons. But you also have the state wrestling tournament, which will start Thursday in Hershey. And we have a representative from the Corry Beavers this year. Junior Lucas Muncie will be wrestling and competing at 106 pounds. A great accomplishment. Luke took 3rd place at the region tournament. The top 4 from each weight class move on in advance. It was kind of a heartbreaker for some of our kids to bow out at the regional tournament this past weekend. But I tell you what, Lee, this is a very, very talented regional tournament this last weekend, where I think that you're going to see several of these kids that are going to be on the podium and medal at the state meet. And same thing for some reason seems to be in wrestling as swimming, where you see a lot of the top finishers from the eastern part of the state. Right. Now, we know a gentleman that just happens to be a wrestling coach on the other side of the state, and he's a Corry native, and that's Dave Kroll. Yep. Now, Coach Kroll is in the Hall of Fame for Pennsylvania wrestling coaches, and deservedly so. And he's, coached a few different places. He coached at Wilson, I know, and he coached at Easton. and he's at Nazareth, and he's coached multiple
state
champions.
Yep.
And he'll have more again this year. He'll have more state champs crowned, I believe, this upcoming weekend here. Does an outstanding job, and the only thing is somehow, some way, if there's somebody listening to this show that's going to be there at the state tournament, go over to anybody you see with a headset on and tell them his last name is not Crowell. It is Kroll. Everybody wants to call him Crowell, and I'm thinking, for somebody who is so decorated as a coach, you can at least get his name right.
Yeah.
We know it's Kroll. We dealt with his brother Scott Kroll as I believe you had just graduated when Scott Kroll came back to teach at the high school, right?
Right. Yeah.
A year after you graduated.
When I was in high school, Coach Lindsay was
the wrestling coach.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And he, I believe, he groomed. He coached.
He coached Scott.
Yeah, and he may have coached Dave. I'm not sure. If he didn't, it was a gentleman that owned the house prior to you, I believe, Bob Benson, that you live in now. He was one of our wrestling coaches, and
That's right.
I know that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Dave Kroll was a class of 72. Scott Kroll, the class of 75, if I'm not mistaken. So I know that Scott Kroll went on to wrestle at Kentucky, and I'm thinking Dave Kroll wrestled at Clarion for some reason. Now, I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that, but I know that they both wrestled at the college level.
Right.
Dave was back here a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that, and did a clinic in Corry, a wrestling clinic. And, of course, Scott Kroll was coaching at Fort LeBoeuf up until 2 years ago or so, when his son wrestled for Fort LeBoeuf.
Right.
And he made it to the state tournament and medaled, actually, Isaac. So the Kroll family is synonymous with the word wrestling, and they are Corry natives, even though they haven't coached in the Corry area in some time. But
Right.
So yeah, we have some really good stuff happening. Hats off to all of those swimmers that are getting ready for the postseason at the high school level and at the Y Otter team level. And of course to Lucas Muncie. There's also another young man from just a few miles down the road over in Union City. Marshall Van Tassel will be making the trip to Hershey this year. The first time that Marshall has qualified as a high school wrestler for the state tournament. And Marshall wrestles at the 195-pound weight division. And we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about a very interesting situation with Marshall Van Tassel and how his season has come along here. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to the Sports Lowdown. Lee Knapp and Brad Swanson bringing you the Sports Lowdown as we do every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Channel 98.9 FM. Lee, you talked about the high school swim team and the Y Otter swim teams preparing for the state tournament, and we just got into talking about the high school wrestling state tournament coming up. There's basketball, and there's a couple local teams that are still in the hunt. Of course, Mercier's Prep girls are still playing. I believe Villa Maria girls are still playing. Got Cambridge Springs is still going. Maplewood is still going. West Middlesex is still going. Harbor Creek, Grove City, Hickory, Commodore Perry. So there's quite a few teams going. Northwestern's still playing. Greenville. I mentioned Mercier's Prep. So a lot of high school teams still going. I see Lakeview, Farrell, Youngsville. So Fairview's still going. Sharon's still going. And these are boys and girls. Franklin, McDowell, Kennedy Catholic, and Warren is also going. So they're still playing. They're still fighting to try to make it to into the Final Four of the state tournament. So a lot of good stuff happening around the area. But right here at home, we have an individual and 3 of his buddies getting ready to go swim in the state tournament. That's been good. And who are his teammates, Lee?
Nate Lesher, John Elvers, Laban Earhart, and then Ben.
Okay. So those guys are all preparing for the state swim meet, and that starts Thursday as well?
No, that'll start the 13th.
Okay, a week from this weekend.
Yeah, 13th and 14th.
So they get a week off, and then they go to the states.
They don't get a week off.
Oh no, because they'll be well. Plus, they'll be swimming for.
They'll be swimming this weekend at the Spire also.
Right, qualifying for that.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, so that's great tune-up for them, though. I mean, that's an awesome tune-up.
It keeps them. It keeps them in shape. A lot of times for the district meet, they'll do what they call a taper. They
explain that, would you?
What they do with the taper is, during the regular season, they swim a lot of yards fast. And when they start tapering, they still swim quite a few yards, but they get more of a break in between. And it's really weird how it works. It's amazing how it works, to tell you the truth. I happened to officiate the swim meet Saturday over at Spire Center. And some of the time drops that I witnessed were just unbelievable. I mean, you're seeing, in the 500 freestyle, you're seeing a 10 to 15 second drop.
Wow.
From what their seed time was.
Right, and 500 yards is quite a ways, but still.
That's a big drop.
That's a lot, yeah. 15 seconds, that's huge.
Yeah, you get into the 50 freestyle, and you'll see a 1 or 2 second drop. And that's phenomenal in 2 lengths. And it's all because of that taper. Their body has a chance to stay in shape, but it has a chance to rest in between sets. And it makes a world of difference. A lot of teams, if they're not swimming for the Y, they'll take them back up in yards for a week, and then they'll go into another taper. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think Coach Doug brought him into a taper, and he's going to keep him in that taper because, like you said, the meet this weekend, they're going to have to swim hard, and then they'll go into another taper next week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'll keep you updated as much as I can.
Yeah, and it would be great to see those kids just blow that 21 seed right out of the water.
Yeah, literally.
Unintended on that one. That would be awesome to see that happen, and to see those kids go and just peak all together and hit it and just go way above and beyond their own expectations, even let alone their coaches and other people's.
I have seen nerves get in the way, though.
Oh yeah.
Once they get up on them blocks, and they're at the biggest meet of the year. Some of them, it's the biggest meet they've ever been in their life.
Right.
And there could be their last meet. For a lot of them, because some of them aren't going to continue swimming at college or whatever. And this is the biggest meet of their career.
Well, you think about it. I mean, you think about every sport there is for high school athletics. And when you get put on that big stage, that's the nerves. Just some kids use that to their advantage.
And
other kids, it really bothers them and really hurts them because they just put so much pressure on themselves. And rightly so. I mean, we're still talking kids.
Yes.
I don't care if they're 18. They're still student athletes.
Yes.
So it's tough. It's not an easy thing. And some people go, geez, that those kids swam against that same team and they beat them twice already this year.
Yeah.
Well, at any given sport, it doesn't matter whether it's girls basketball, boys basketball, swimming, wrestling, or any other fall or spring sport, to beat an individual or a team 3 times in the same year is very, very difficult.
Yes,
very difficult.
Yes, it is.
And you ask those kids that swim, they're like, man, I I enjoyed swimming against this person, but I knew they were going to be in triple A, I'm going to be in double A or whatever. And it's kind of like maybe both sides are going, that's good. I wish them luck. Hopefully they do good in their divisions.
Right.
And it's a good thing we don't have to swim each other again because we're really neck and neck.
Neck and neck, right. Right.
Same thing with wrestling. You get some of these these tournaments that the kids go to, and you might have double A and triple A involved in the same tournament.
Yes.
And it's neat to see those matchups because you wonder, well, they're both 182 pounders, and this kid is ranked in the top 15 in the state, and so is this guy, but one's in double A, one's in triple A. So it's just kind of neat to see how that works, and it was fun to see them cross over and wrestle each other once in a while.
Well, I know that we had the meet last weekend, and right now, you got McDowell, Warren, Meadville, they're all triple A. Prep moved down to double A. And Prep is seeded right now to probably win the state swim meet. I mean, they're a good team. But some of the times that I witnessed between double A and triple A, it could be very competitive. The double A could swim against the triple A.
Right. Nice.
Very competitive. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, as I mentioned, Lucas Muncie is our lone representative from Corry to move on now to the state wrestling tournament. And also Marshall Van Tassel from Union City will be there as well, representing the Union City Bears at 195 pounds. We talked a little bit about Marshall having a knee injury, and it's kind of crazy. He wrenched his knee in the Section 1 AA semifinals and got pinned in that match with 3 seconds left in regulation. I talked to his dad, and his dad said you could have heard him throughout the whole gym, and then it got kind of quiet, like he just yelled because of the pain he was in from that. And automatically, when his dad and I were talking about it, I thought, Jesus, he going to be able to move on and wrestle the next weekend?
Yeah, really?
Well, I knew what was going to happen, and it did happen. And what they did was they injury defaulted the next 2 matches because he hadn't been beat yet, but he was in a position where he could injury default the next 2 matches, so he's eliminated, but he finished in the top 6 that moved on to the next week, not top 7, I'm sorry, that moved on to the next week, and he finished 6th. So he moved into the district competition as the 6th seed, and then he came out, and he was about 50 or 60% after that happened. But he went into districts. He lost 3-1 to Corey's Hayden Linkerhoff, who's a sophomore phenom that had a fantastic season this year. And then he then won 8-0. Then he won by pin in 55 seconds, and then he won a 17-8 major decision. Well, that put him in the 3rd place match against Linkerhoff again, and Hayden won 10-3. Now, Marshall Van Tassel entered the regionals as the District 10 3rd place wrestler. So he won his first match 7-4 against a kid from Mercer that he wrestled a few times this year, twice before, and we talked about that 3 times thing.
Yeah.
And each time these matches got closer, Marshall won 7-4. So that put him in perhaps one of the biggest upset matches in the whole. That was definitely the biggest upset in the regional tournament, as he knocked off Brockway's favored Eric Johnson, who I know he's in the top 5 ranked in the state. And Marshall went out and wrestled a great match. I watched it on video. I beat him 3-2. So then that put him up against Conneaut's Trevor Tursky, who Marshall had wrestled twice this year.
No.
And he wrestled him again, and he beat him. he beat him as well. Put him in the finals against Reynolds' Braden Herbster, who's only lost 3 times this year. He's, I believe, the second. I think he's ranked second in the state. And I watched that match, and Marshall was actually beating him 3-2, and was riding on top. Used his legs and tried to really put the clamp down with the legs, and I think he actually agitated that knee again. Yep. And he ended up getting pinned in the 3rd period by Herbster. But he's very focused, says Coach Heiner. He said he's focused, ready to go. He's got a real tough bracket. He is probably going to see Gage Garcia, who has not lost since the state semifinals 2 years ago. So this kid is really tough, defending state champ. And it looks like Marshall could face him in the 2nd round. I'm looking at the pairings here, and it's showing Lucas Muncie in the 1st round. He comes in, he's a junior, 41-6, Lee.
Wow.
Having a phenomenal year. He's going to face either Callan Bowman of Chestnut Ridge, who's a freshman, 37-3, or he's going to face Ethan Kolb out of Benton, who's a freshman, 29-5. So looked like a pretty decent matchup for him coming out of the gate.
Yep.
And then you look at Marshall Van Tassel is going to take on Notre Dame Green Ponds. Let's see here. These are a little tough to see. This Gage Garcia comes in from Southern Columbia, 45-0. He's a senior.
Wow.
And the winner of Jason Stein of Notre Dame Green Pond will take on Marshall Van Tassel, I guess. That's how that one goes. Marshall comes in 34-8, and remember, 2 of his losses were forfeit matches.
Yes.
So, he's got a pretty good record as well. It's going to be tough. That Herbster from Northwestern, or from Reynolds, I was telling you about, he comes in. He's a senior, 35-3 on the season. So, and there's some real good wrestlers in that weight class. Another kid I see, 39-3, kid from Newport, PA. And, so this is going to be a very, very tough bracket. Another guy to mention is another Union City guy, but he wrestles for Cathedral Prep. Jacob Van D. He's a 106-pounder, as is Lucas Muncie. Jacob Van D will be wrestling in the state tournament. He comes in, he's only a sophomore, 37-3 on the season.
Wow.
He's a region champ from a week ago, and he's going to take on either Troy Homan from Penn Trafford, who is a sophomore, 20-5, or Caden Dobbins from Dallastown, a sophomore, 36-8. So Jacob's got a pretty good draw for his 1st round matchup. And we wish all those kids the best of luck.
Oh, we sure do. The thing that's very interesting about wrestling is one wrong move, and somebody takes advantage of it, and it's all over.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your record is.
And it's quick.
Right.
I mean, you make one wrong move, and then they do one other move, and it's over. Just that quick.
Right. Here's a good example of just what you just said. I've followed wrestling for a number of years, and I watch, and I see Eisenhower High School. Eisenhower always has some really good wrestlers, and they're competitive as a team every year with Corry, Union City, LaBeouf, whoever. They're a competitive school. Sagertown, another school that's good. But there's a young man, Logan Jaquay, that wrestles for Eisenhower. He's only a sophomore. He came into the tournament, the district tournament, 2 weeks ago. I believe he was 34-0. And he wrestled one of the Bayless boys from Reynolds, and people know that name is synonymous with Reynolds Wrestling, and the Bayless young man beat Logan Jaquay, gave him his first loss, beat him 6-1. So, that's a pretty good margin right there.
Right.
But he caught him in a move.
What?
And got the back points and things like that. Just what you were saying.
Yeah, one wrong move.
You know what happened this weekend in that regional tournament? Those two ended up wrestling each other again in the finals. Jaquay and Bayless. Jaquay pinned him.
Wow.
So Jaquay caught Bayless with a move.
Yep.
And pinned him. So I would not be a bit surprised to see those two neck and neck, and I'd love to see them at opposite ends of the bracket and see them in the semifinals.
Yeah.
One of them's going in the finals for the state championship, or even if they somehow miraculously end up wrestling each other for the state championship.
That'd be
great.
interesting.
So, Reynolds, and I'm not going to beat up Cathedral Prep on being a recruiting school, but Reynolds somehow or another they happen to find a whole lot of people that are fantastic wrestlers. I believe that they're sending 13 kids to the state tournament.
Wow.
I think that's what it is. I know at least 11, but I'm thinking it's 13 out of 14 weight classes.
That's unreal.
So, yeah. So, I guess this week was a lot about the two remaining sports that we have people participating in.
Yes.
We have seen that the official practices for spring sports started yesterday.
Okay.
So, girls and boys track and field, girls softball and boys baseball.
Right.
And, pardon me, of course our highly successful trap team will be participating here.
Yep.
And trying to defend another
their
state
championship.
Yep. Hopefully they go on and get another one. We'll try to give you some information on those folks as well. Maybe we can get an in-depth look at who's all involved there. We'll get a roster and find out a schedule with them and how things are going. So
right.
We want to give them exposure like we do all of our other sports.
Sure. That's a sport. We'll do what we can do for them.
Right. Well, we covered a lot of stuff, Lee, in a little bit of time again here. Next week we'll have a lot more information, as you said, about swimming.
Yes.
And I'll give you an update on how the state wrestling tournament went. And we can start getting a little preview into girls and boys softball. I do know this, that 2 weeks from yesterday, Tuesday, the girls softball team is scheduled to play.
Is that a scrimmage or is that a regular game?
I believe it's a regular game. So
they might be playing in the snowflakes.
Right. And the boys baseball team is scheduled to play here, I believe, 3 weeks from tomorrow. So those are scheduled games to play. We'll see what happens. I know that the boys are scheduled to play a couple games, and then they head down to Myrtle Beach for their spring training stuff. They'll get a couple scrimmages in and a few games. And I know that the girls are going to be going as well. I believe they're going back down to Tennessee to play their spring stuff. So I know that there's some upcoming fundraisers for those both. And I don't have all the information right now in front of me, but keep your eyes and ears open and find out and try to get out and support those kids if you can.
Sure. Yep.
Those are great fundraisers, and it's for their trips down south. I tell you what, we didn't get to do that stuff when we were kids, Lee, but
no, we didn't.
I tell you what, I definitely encourage people to get out and support that because it's a great opportunity for the kids. And when you live around this area, you know that the chances of you getting out and playing a game even 3 weeks from now are slim to none.
Are slim. That's right.
Well, any closing comments?
No, I just like you were saying earlier, Brad. We wish all the participants in the postseasons the best of luck. Give it your best, especially if you're a senior. But even if you're not, I mean, you always want to give it your best. But seniors, kick it in extra gear. This is your last time in that sport, in high school football, in high school sports. So we wish you all the best of luck, and go get them.
Yeah, definitely. We wish everyone the best of luck. Lee, next week when we do the show, we'll have an hour more daylight. We get to spring ahead this weekend.
There you go.
So that'll be nice. Maybe it'll put a little spring in everybody's step.
Yeah, I should.
All right.
I should.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. For Lee Knapp, this is Brad Swanson, asking you to continue to keep your radio dial tuned to channel 98.9 FM all the time, but every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for the Sports Lowdown. For Brian back at the station, we thank you for tuning in to channel 98.9 FM. And as we always finish our show, go Beavers!
Go Beavers!